Hey, what's happening? I'm Claudio, and today I'm going to be rebuilding my chimney stack that was a little leaky. Last winter we noticed a leak, and it's time to fix it before the rainy season starts again. So if you want to see what I did, stick around. Let's make it now.
Last winter we sprung a little bit of a leak coming down from the chimney. You can see the water rings that formed on the stove. A big storm came through the area recently, so I tarped up the chimney until I could make the repairs. I set up the ladder and climbed on the roof to remove the tarp. It was only being held down by a couple ratchet straps, so it was easy to remove. However, a bunch of water did get trapped in the tarp from the storm. This is the chimney stack. Some of the wood siding was in acceptable shape, but most of it was junk. The water was actually seeping through the spongy wood. This corner was the worst, but you can see how soft it was as I mashed through it with the hammer. It was time to just start ripping into it. Using a hammer and a pry bar, I tore the wood off the frame. It was actually a lot more difficult than I thought it would be. I removed the chimney cap so I could eventually pull off the crown flashing. These 2x4s needed to be pulled off so I could remove all the siding. I continued pulling off the rest of the siding. After ripping out what seemed like a million nails, it was finally open. Before starting to rebuild the stack, I wanted to clean up the area and remove all the debris from the roof. Not only would it be easier to work, it would make it a lot safer as well. I spent a few minutes and measured out all the dimensions of the frame. I purchased some siding from the home center. Unfortunately, the stack was just big enough that I needed a whole 4x8 sheet for each side. Using my cordless circular saw, I cut them down to length. The two smaller sides were narrow enough to cut on the table saw. I ripped them down to width, removing the overlapping edge. Those two small sides also needed an angle cut to contour the roof line. I marked and cut them out. The longer panels were too wide to rip down on the table saw, so I drew a line and cut them by eye using the circular saw. Once those were cut, I ran them up on the roof and placed them next to the chimney stack. I put the first panel in place and then scribed the top using a black Sharpie. I made the quick cut and then put it back in place. Since it was a perfect fit, I screwed it all in place. I did the same thing for the other three sides: scribe, cut, screw. I measured and cut a few 2x4s to recreate the border along the top of the stack for the crown flashing to attach to. These didn't need to have mitered ends, it's just what was there before, so that's what I did. After screwing them in place, I replaced the flashing and screwed it down. Then I could reinstall the cap. For a little decorative effect, as well as help seal the edges of the siding, the chimney had 1x4 trim. To cut the 1x4s to the correct angle, I used a scrap 2x4 and scribed it with a Sharpie. After cutting, it fits great. I then flipped the board around and cut it to length. When both boards were done, I screwed them into the stack. And again, I did the exact same thing on the other three corners. To waterproof all the seams, I used a silicone caulking. I sealed up anywhere that two pieces of wood met, as well as covered the screw heads. I had already checked that my metal flashing was in great shape, but I also put a heavy coat of Henry's roof patch, just for good measure. I chose a good exterior primer and applied a heavy coat. I made sure to get it into every nook and cranny. The final step was to apply a coat of paint. We don't like this color, but until we paint the rest of the house, it would look weird with anything else. And that's it, a completely new chimney stack.
Well, I'm sure glad I got this done before the rainy season starts again. We had a couple pretty big storms come through the area since I finished, and of course, no leaks. So make sure you get your roof and house ready for another winter. There's nothing worse than to have to climb up onto your roof in the middle of the pouring rain just to fix something. If you like this project, let me know about it in the comments, and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you won't miss any of my upcoming videos. You can follow me on social media at Make It Now Channel, and you can find my blog and all my other past projects on my website at makeitnow.tv. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.